broker call was over. However, the real work was just beginning. A few hours later, Lamar opened his inbox. There it was, the rent roll, the T12, the lease summary, the property photos. Most beginners think the deal starts when the property is listed. Operators know the deal starts when the documents arrive, because now the story can be verified. The broker had done his job. He opened the door. Now Lamar had to do his. He clicked on the rent row after row, unit after unit, names, rents, lease dates, move-in dates, occupancy status. At first glance, it looked like a spreadsheet. However, the spreadsheet was really a map of the property's income. Lamar thought the documents were the opportunity. They weren't. The opportunity was hidden inside the documents. Most begin to see a rent roll and think, good, the property has tenants. Operators see something different. They see clues, patterns, strengths, weaknesses, future problems, future upside. Because every unit tells a story, and every story affects cash flow. Lamar stared at the spreadsheet. Unit 101, occupied. Unit 102, occupied. Unit 103, occupied. Then, Unit 111, vacant. Unit 112, vacant. 2 vacancies. Suddenly, the property looked different because vacant units don't pay rent and vacant units create questions. Why are they empty? Bad management, poor condition, high turnover, market problem, or opportunity? The AI operator appeared beside the board, not to give answers, to ask better questions. Don't count doors, count income. Lamar looked again. Average rents, lease dates, move-out history, occupancy trends. For the first time, he wasn't looking at apartments. He was looking at a business. Then Lamar noticed something else. The occupied units weren't all paying the same rent. Some tenants were paying more. Some were paying less, much less. The AI operator highlighted the numbers. Compare rent, compare value, compare market. Suddenly, another question appeared. Were these units below market? If market rent was $1,450 and the tenant was paying $1,150, that wasn't just a difference. It was potential income, potential NOI, potential value. For the first time, Lamar understood why investors obsess over rent rolls, because hidden inside the rolls was the future of the property. The vacancies were important. However, they weren't the biggest discovery. The biggest discovery was hidden in plain sight. Existing tenants, existing leases, existing income, because every dollar below market represented something, not guaranteed profit, potential. The AI operator projected the numbers onto the board. Unit 101, $300 below market. Unit 104, $400 below market. Unit 107, $375 below market. 1 unit wasn't a big deal. 2 units got interested. 10 units changed the conversation. Suddenly, Lamar wasn't looking at rent. He was looking at leverage. Small increases across multiple units. Over multiple years, the building itself hadn't changed. The roof was the same. The parking lot was the same. The walls were the same. However, the income could be different. And when income changes, value changes. Most people think real estate is about buying buildings. Operators understand it's about improving businesses. The rent roll wasn't showing Lamar what the property was. It was showing him what the property could become. That's when the numbers started telling a story. And that story was called upside. Most beginners count units. 10 units, 20 units, 50 units. Bigger sounds better. However, buildings don't pay investors. Income does. Income pays debt. Income funds repairs. Income creates options. Standing there looking over Austin, Lamar realized something. The question was never how many units does it have. The question was, how much income does it produce? The rent roll explained the income. However, income is only half the story, because every number comes from a real property. Real roofs, real parking lots, real tenants, real maintenance, real problems. Lamar stepped away from the spreadsheet and opened the photos. For the first time, The numbers had a face, a vacant unit, a worn stairwell, age of paint, deferred maintenance. Nothing catastrophic, however, enough to matter. Because every physical issue eventually becomes a financial issue, and that financial issue eventually affects cash flow. Most beginners look for reasons to buy. Operators look for reasons to ask questions. Why are units vacant? Why haven't rents been raised? What is invisible in the photos? What happens if repairs cost more than expected? The AI operator projected another checklist, not a list of answers, a list of unknowns, because great acquisitions aren't built on certainty, they're built on verification. Every question answered reduces risk. Every assumption verified increases confidence. Lamar wasn't trying to convince himself this was a deal, he was trying to discover whether the story was true. The rent roll showed income. However, income alone wasn't enough because money didn't flow straight to an investor's pocket. It flows through expenses first: insurance, taxes, repairs, maintenance, utilities, management, debt. The AI operator touched the board. The income streams began flowing down. Some of the money disappeared, then more disappeared, then more. Lamar watched the numbers shrink. For the first time, he understood something important. Revenue is not profit. A property can collect rent every month and still perform poorly. Because what matters is what comes in, it's what remains. The AI operator highlighted a single phrase: net operating income, NOI, the heartbeat of the deal. The number investors fight to protect, the number lenders study, the number buyers pay for. And suddenly, Lamar wasn't asking, how much rent does this property collect? He was asking, how much income does this property keep? That was a different question. And different questions lead to different decisions. At first, Lamar thought the rent roll was about tenants. It wasn't. He thought it was about apartments. It wasn't. He thought it was about occupancy. It wasn't. The rent roll was really answering one question: how much income is this property capable of producing? Because there is a difference between potential income and actual income. Vacancies create a gap. Below market rents create a gap. Collection problems create a gap. Poor management creates a gap, and inside that gap, operators look for opportunity. The AI operator highlighted the numbers: potential income, actual income, side by side. The difference wasn't a mistake, the difference was a mission, because every investor is trying to answer the same question: can this property perform better tomorrow than it performs today? For the first time, Lamar understood why experienced investors become obsessed with details, not because they love spreadsheets, because they are searching for hidden income. The rent roll wasn't predicting the future, it was revealing possibilities, and possibilities are where value begins. The rent roll had answered one important question: how much income could this property produce? However, another question remained, a more important question: how much income did it actually keep? Because potential doesn't pay investors, reality does. The vacancies matter, the rent gaps matter, the upside matter. However, none of those things could overcome bad operations, bad expenses, bad management, or bad numbers. Lamar looked at the final file: 12 months, every dollar collected, every dollar spent, every strength, every weakness hidden inside one document. The AI operator finally spoke. Opportunity creates excitement. Verification creates confidence. The room felt silent. The rent roll had shown possibility. The T12 will reveal truth. Lamar moved the cursor. The spreadsheet waited, and for the first time, he understood something most beginners never learn. The deal isn't the property. The deal is the numbers. AICG Real Estate Learning, Episode 4, The Rent Roll. Next episode, T12 Truth. We build operators here, one cash flowing property at a time.